Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf and welcome to my podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. And I'm here to help you and me clean up our mess so that we can experience more peace in our life and, just get through the day-to-day stuff. We're human. Life is tough. It's hard. It's challenging. And some really bad things happen and some not such bad things happen, but all of it affects our emotions and our body and our perspective. And I'm here to try and help us understand and navigate our way through that. So in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about what are things that affect our memory and what are 4 tips that can help us improve our memory. And before we begin, if you want to listen to my podcast ad-free, just go and subscribe to my Patreon account. Link and details are in the show notes. You can also listen to bonus episodes there and some live Q&As that will be coming up. And one more thing just before we begin, and that is this podcast is for educational purposes and is not medical advice. So if you need medical advice, please contact the appropriate medical professional. And now, on to today's podcast about memory. Okay, I get asked a ton about memory, okay? So I want to just read this first part to you. Have you ever read a section of a book, turned the page and, forgot what you just read? Or studied hard for an exam, or prepped hard for some sort of a meeting, and then you can't recall what you spent so much time learning? Why do people struggle to remember things? Well, here's some good news. We're not actually supposed to remember everything. The brain is designed to forget some things and to remember some things. What is important to us, we remember, and what isn't goes away. Now, immediately, as soon as I said that, I know some of you said, I even forget what's important to remember. I know that. And that's because of certain things that we're going through in our life. And I'm going to give you some tips to handle that. But in general, we're not supposed to remember every article you read, every conversation you have, everything. It's all stimulation coming in. It all develops your mind. It's good to listen. It's good to have an open mind. I cannot stress that enough. Listen to different points of view. Listen to different philosophies. Accept people are different. Don't be scared to have discussions with people that don't think exactly like you or don't believe exactly what you believe, or don't be scared to have in-depth discussions and read stuff. Read extensively. But don't be hard on yourself if you can't remember every single one of those discussions or every single thing that you read. From that broad, huge silo, you will then siphon down. Think of a filter. You'll siphon down into what you specifically need to build into your brain as a long-term, automatized thought with memories built into a thought, because memories grow together. They cluster together into a thought. The thought's the big thing holding the memories. And that takes a lot of energy. So you definitely want to be careful about what you spend time building into your brain as a fixed, automatized structural change, wired in neural change in your brain, because it also gets built into changes in your body, in every single cell of your brain and body, changes the cytoskeleton and the DNA. So every memory is in your brain and every cell of your entire body. And in addition to that, it's in the gravitational fields of your mind that drive your brain and your body. So that requires a tremendous amount of energy to do all of that. So if we try to remember everything, we don't do anything very well. But if we go from the broad and we decide what we need is important for our life and we focus on that and we build memory and take the time to learn that stuff, that's very important. So for me, and as an example of what I mean by this, obviously, I'm in the field of neuroscience and mind-brain research and mental health and this kind of stuff. I also have a tremendous interest in other things. Obviously, there's other areas of life that I'm very interested in. I'm fascinated with politics and I'm fascinated with philosophy. I love reading fiction and I love having conversations and different ways of doing things and so on. And so there's a lot that I'm having conversations in that I'm exposed to. But I choose deliberately and intentionally to build memory very specifically around my particular field. So if I want to know something about the history of a place, or if I want to know some more details about some ancient civilization, I'll go to my eldest daughter and my son, and because they have extensive knowledge about that and tremendous interest in that. If I want some specific details about politics that I know I read something about, I'll go and ask my husband, because he definitely would have remembered that, because that's where his interest lies, and so on. But when it comes to brain science, mind brain, I know my stuff. I study that. I spend time. So in that way, I don't stress myself by trying to remember everything. I expose myself And then I know who knows what. So if I want to know more, I can go to them, or I can go to the source, a source. But I spend time building my brain and which means I'm building my memory around stuff that is very relevant to what I need to function and what grabs my interest, what I'm totally interested in, because then that excites me and helps me to grow forward and improve my memory. And that collectively is growing a very healthy brain in my head and my body cells and so on. So we aren't supposed to remember everything. The brain is designed to forget things that are not useful to us. Indeed, trying to remember everything, as I just said, can cause neurochemical chaos in our neural circuitry, okay? Because we were designed to selectively remember, or structured, I prefer that word structured, to selectively remember what interests us and what we need for a particular task. My husband's doing his pilot license at the moment, and he tells me about it, but I don't want to know the detail. I'm interested in the general stuff, but I don't want to know the detail because it's going to interfere with what I do need to know. Okay, so there's another example. So why do we forget important information? Because we've been trying to remember everything. We haven't focused on that silo effect. We haven't chosen to listen and then choose I need this, and spend the time building that memory correctly. And that then can cause us to forget what we do need to know. Trying to remember everything can add to that neurochemical chaos that will definitely contribute to not building good memory, and also can interfere with memories that are in the non-conscious mind, because the non-conscious mind has got all these great memories grouped into thoughts in our non-conscious mind, but we can't access them because we've got to get through the subconscious to get to those if our conscious mind's a big mess. So we can't find them. It's like driving. I often use the example of driving through the rain or snow without windscreen wipers. You can't see. You have to, get some clarity in order to be able to see. And so therefore, when we have this chaos in our mind, we can't draw on those memories. But when we calm down, sort out the chaos, get the windscreen wipers going, we can suddenly remember things. I'm sure that's happened to you, that you get put on the spot, you're in an anxious moment, you just go blank. And then when you're calm and things have settled down, you remember. And so that's that sort of windscreen wiper example. It kind of blocks the memory being drawn by the conscious mind through the subconscious from the unconscious mind. Okay, so sometimes we just build memory incorrectly. And that's a lot of problems people have in academic environment. For years, I trained teachers how to teach children how to learn, and children how to learn, and adults how to learn. And I still do that. And I have a great book called Think, Learn, Succeed, where I focus on that. We're building a whole cycle into the Neurocycle app, where I have more about how to learn. And that's really critical, because you never stop learning, and you should never stop learning. To stop neural degeneration, you need to keep on learning all the time. But not many people are 100% sure how to learn chunks of information. We're learning all the time. Let me just distinguish. We're learning every moment of every day because you're getting new information. So learning is building memory about the day-to-day stuff. But there's specific memory building that goes around learning a skill or an academic content academically, or stuff that you need for your job or your work or your academic environment or whatever, where you need to actually learn that stuff and practice that skill and so on. And that's where we need to be very deliberate in teaching ourselves and our children how to learn. So as I said, this is a great source for that. And the more you spend time learning how to learn and practicing that, then the more you develop your memory. It carries over. Fortunately, the way our brain and body are structured is that the more efficiently we use our mind when it comes to things like learning, the more this carries over. It generalizes. We have this generalizability factor that when we get something right, the brain gets so excited and the body gets so excited and the mind-brain-body connection gets so excited that we tend to apply it without even being aware sometimes. So it's our unconscious mind is driving the conscious mind to do something. So you think you're not aware because consciously you're not aware, but your unconscious mind is doing what it's supposed to do. And that's why I stress so much. We need to spend time building our unconscious mind and building these networks in our brain so that we draw on them when we need them, that we don't have to sometimes consciously, what must I do now? It just comes up. And that's a lifestyle approach, okay? And that's really how we improve memory. So the 5 steps of the neurocycle that I speak about all the time and that you are familiar with from this book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, the Neurocycle app, which is available on iTunes and Google Store, which I strongly and highly recommend, constantly putting great new information in. And that is the same 5 steps that you use for learning, but you use them differently. Okay, so it's because that's why the 5 steps are not some technique. They're not a sort of one-off little, 5 tricks. It is a system for getting your messy mind to listen to your wise mind, to then change the neuroplasticity of the brain and rewire the neuroplasticity of the brain, and which in turn changes the structure of the cells of the body, and that altogether helps you then write that exam, present that presentation, do the stuff that you need to do, okay, that makes you more efficient at what you need to do. Okay, so I'm going to give you basically 5 reasons with 5 little tips, kind of a summary of what I've said, but a little bit more specific on how you can improve your memory. And we'll do some more another time because there's lots of things that you can do for memory, but here's some 5 basic, excellent things that you can start changing in your life that I know will help you improve your memory. So the first thing is, and you'll recognize this is also a summary of what I've just said. So number 1, chaotic thinking creates neurochemical chaos in your brain and your body and damages the brain, can be healed, okay? And that in turn affects memory. So it's always important to take time to think about our thinking. We need to think about our thinking. That's self-regulation, that's mind management that you always hear me talking about, and control what we allow into our heads. Never let thoughts just wander through your mind without analyzing them and thinking about them. So when I talk about a thinker moment, which I do often, there's different types of thinker moments. There's the thinker moment where you just have a 30-second to a 1-second mind wander daydream, and then there's longer and that's fine. And then there's longer thinker moments of 30 minutes or 15 to 30 minutes where you would actually daydream and let thoughts wander, but then you would actually break those moments where you'd open your eyes and then write down what the dominant thoughts are so you can start finding the patterns. I did a whole podcast on this. You go back on how to deal with invasive thoughts and intrusive thoughts and ruminating, overthinking, that kind of stuff. Okay? When we let thoughts wander through our mind for longer than a sort of 2-minute period without controlling them and kind of analyzing them, you move from the benefits. The first couple of 30 seconds to 2 minutes of mind wandering is very brain boosting, but anything longer, you need to actually be analyzing and watching what's going on. So let your mind wander, what thoughts keep coming up, writing that down. And I recommend, as I said, about 16-minute to 30-minute blocks to do that during the day, where you deliberately do that. But let's just say you're going through the day and you didn't know anything about what I'm talking about now, and you find that you put your pen down or you stop typing on your computer and you're just like looking off into space, and there's just like such a lot of stuff going through your mind, or you're just about to go to sleep and stuff's all going through your mind. Especially when you go to sleep, like stop and say, okay, what am I thinking about? What are these thoughts? Have a little journal next to your bed, or grab your phone and type it in, or however you want to work it. We have neurocycle journals that we will have available soon, but you can just write that. You can just write, type it into your phone or just grab a journal. So in other words, write that down. You don't have to solve the world's problems in that moment, but just capture them because you get control. Because whatever's coming up is coming up from the non-conscious mind, so into the conscious mind. And the fact that it's actually coming up is a message. Okay, it's telling you something. And if you don't deal with it, it affects your memory because it will affect your sleep. It will affect your next moment of work if it's happening during the day and you're staring off into space. So you want to catch those and do something with them. So those chaotic thinking that isn't managed is going to affect your memory because the chaos doesn't build good networks. It disrupts networks. And it is back to that example of the windscreen wipers are not working, so you can't see what you're doing. And it affects the next moments of creativity or sleep or conversation, or if you're in an argument or something, you're not going to have much wisdom in that argument. Okay, so focus on the now moment and observe your thoughts and feelings, perhaps writing down your thoughts in a journal to organize them, as I've said. So there's the problem and the little tip. Second thing, toxic schedules. And I have spoken about this a lot as well, but let me remind you, can have a negative impact on your memory. So chaotic thinking, and second one, toxic schedules. I tell you, I am a master of developing toxic schedules and mastering them. And as the years go by, I'm getting better and better, but I still can fall back into those patterns of toxic schedules. But I know how to self-regulate, so I catch myself super quick when I see, oh gosh, I have gone 4 hours without enough thinker moments, or without a long enough break, or I'm allowing all my team who need something from me to push me in every direction, and I'm going longer than I should. So, and in the past, I just try to sort of, I must get the work done, or people please or whatever. But I don't do that anymore, because that affected my memory, my creativity, my productivity. And I'll say things like, okay, I know we have to get X, Y, and Z done, but I've reached my limit, and whatever I produce now is not going to be good. So let me take a break and let me do this later, tomorrow, in an hour, now, whatever. And yes, those people might get frustrated or irritated if you say that to them, but they're going to get more frustrated and irritated, and you're going to be more frustrated and irritated with yourself if you have allowed yourself to stay in that toxic schedule, because your quality is not going to be great. I learned this the hard way, and I saw my husband and my eldest daughter are fantastic at monitoring their schedules, and I have really listened to them. My husband and my daughter, and my eldest daughter, and I've really built that in. My other two daughters who also work for me, they are now also learning from my husband and my eldest daughter to really be much more careful about toxic schedules, because it will affect your memory. When your conscious mind gets tired and your brain and body get tired, you're going to feel flat, your creativity drops, your memory is going to be affected. And if you push yourself constantly in those toxic schedules, your memory will be affected. And then there's a whole negative cycle that's set up, because then there's the worry about my memory and my inefficiency and what's wrong with me, and am I degenerating, am I getting Alzheimer's? There's all these things that make you even more fearful, which just make the situation worse. So just stop the bus and look at your schedule. So it's important to take time and rest and not let the clock rule our lives, or people rule our lives, guys. Give yourself time to breathe. Get a coffee with a friend. Go on a date night. Treat yourself to a spa day. Do whatever it is that you have to do. Okay, so third thing, we merge with our environments. Now, what that means is that we are very interactive beings. We love stimulation. We respond to technology. We respond to movies. We respond to the sunsets. We merge. Whatever draws our attention, we focus on, and we merge, because it enables us to process this as an entire being, spirit, soul, and body, or mind, brain, body. And it makes us, experience life. And it's a beautiful thing that we have as humans. But we've got to watch what we're merging with, because whatever we're merging with is becoming part of you. And if you merge with it a lot and it's something that's not healthy for you, then you are building toxic patterns into your non-conscious, which become your drivers. And that can make you feel worse. So just watch where your attention is going. Whatever you pay repeated attention to, which is actually called the quantum Zeno effect in quantum physics, is becoming part of your mind, brain, and body. In other words, part of your neural circuitry, part of the cytoskeleton and DNA of your cells, and part of the gravitational fields of your mind, which will in turn influence what you say, what you do, how you feel, how you act, and all the rest of that stuff. And that then feeds back into your mind, and then you frustrated, whatever, and then the cycle gets going. So basically, we need to, because of the plasticity of our brain and our body, not just our brain, it's not just our brain that's plastic, it's our entire body changes all the time, okay? And so we need to really watch what we are merging with, because that is changing your brain and body and your mind, and that's going to change how you show up. So you can look at how you're showing up to find out how you are, what you're merging with. So how are you showing up? What are you saying and doing most? What are you focusing on? What's coming out of your mouth? What's your perspective? What are your behaviors? How are you feeling in your body? Look at that combination of those signals, and that'll tell you more about the thought that you've built, which will tell you what you've spent a lot of time, more than 63 days merging. The stronger you're driven by something, or the stronger the behaviors and so on are, the more time you've spent merging. And if it's toxic, you need to unmerge and you need to rewire. And that's going to take cycles of 63 days. Okay? So we merge with our environments because of the plasticity of our brains and bodies, and essentially our brains respond to our minds. How we react to the circumstances of life and whatever we focus on the most will be wired into our brains and influence our mental and physical health. We need to pay attention to the external and internal thoughts, because if we keep focusing on our toxic thoughts, they also grow. So that's not just from the outside. It's the ruminations. It's the thoughts. Are you constantly pulling up a sad thought? Because that sadness breeds sadness. It's going to draw up other ones. If this is what you're consciously focusing on, this is attached to a lot of others. And then others will come up. And others will come up. I'm getting more trees so that I can demonstrate this better, so I can show this is going to pull up other thoughts that it's associated with. So is this. Okay, So, this is okay to bring up lots of stuff, but whatever you're merging on is going to bring up other stuff that you're merging on. So your internal thought life also needs to be monitored. So that's the first thing. Just very quickly, the first thing was chaotic thinking. The second thing is toxic schedules. Chaotic thinking affects your memory. Toxic schedules affect your memory. What we merge with affects our memories. So in terms of managing that, take a few moments every day to write down what's happening in your life and what you feel and how that affects your thinking. Analyze the relationship between your environment and your thoughts. This is a powerful thing. Analyze the relationship between your environment and your thoughts. And you can do this by writing it down, as I'm explaining. And think of ways you can improve your external and internal environments to improve your mental health and ability to build memory. Now, you can do that thing within the 63-day cycle, because then you can find what is affecting your memory and your goal of that thought, of that 63-day thought, would be analyzing the relationship between your environment and your thoughts. Think of ways you can improve your external and internal environments to improve your mental health and your ability to build memory. So in other words, if your environment is one of constantly reading the news all day, like every version of the news that you can think of, and you feel weighed down and you feel like, what's the point? Like it's just like one big huge mess, this life. Then you need to balance that. That's definitely affecting, that's just a lot of this. And so you need to balance that with more of this, because every bit of news that you read is biased, and you need to be more balanced, and you need to reconceptualize. And if you're reading only one type of view, every reporter is bringing it from their point of view. And yes, things are going on, but if that's all you're not balancing that with what could happen and the good stuff, that's an example of you merging with an environment that's going to affect your memory. So that focus will affect your general memory functioning because it's so negative. Point number 4, the average person spends up to 8 hours a day, it's probably more, using technology. And listen, I'm not against technology. It's fantastic. And even if you have to spend 8 hours a day, I mean, most of us, especially working from home, we are doing that. So I'm not going to tell you to stop doing that. I'm just going to advise you to monitor it. On my computer, my phone. I mean, this is what we do. So, and on Zoom and everything. So basically, we just need to manage that process. All right. So the fast pace of technology can create these toxic addictive patterns. And I know you've heard of those, because you get this temporary high and this temporary low. Now, that's not bad if it's managed, because it can create a sense of excitement and a sense of preparing you to learn. So it's not all bad. Okay, the high that your body goes into healthy stress helps you to anticipate and start the memory building process. The problem is if we don't give ourselves breaks. The brain and the body, you've heard me say this before, get tired, but your non-conscious doesn't. So your non-conscious also knows that your conscious and your conscious mind and brain and body will get tired. So your conscious mind does send you warning signals, generally through your emotions, like when you start feeling flat or depressed or you can't, like frustrated. Those are very clear signs that you're not taking enough breaks from technology. And so take a good break, like get up and move around, do some push-ups, go out and get some fresh air. Just look anywhere else except at technology for a while. Just give yourself those logical breaks that you can work into your life. And then you'll see I talk a lot about the thinker moments. Those 30-second to 2-minute thinker moments. I did a whole podcast on this, are essential in managing technology. Okay, so it's important that we find ways to limit our use of technology. Take the time to go for a long walk in the park, play with your children in the park, read a good book in the bath. Those are really great ways of balancing technology. The walking, the playing, the reading of a fiction book. Read the book, not on your phone. Read a book. Pick up this thing. It's called a book. And read it. Hold the pages. Feel it. Sit under a tree and do it. Curl up in a chair by the fire and read the book. Play with your dogs, run in the park. Force yourself to go for that walk when you just don't feel like it. Because, if technology is used incorrectly, you physically drain and just everything becomes too much of an effort. Force yourself, make that effort to sit down and play and laugh and chat about stuff go chat with your family, your kids, your friends about fun stuff, a movie. Watch a movie and then talk about it, that kind of stuff. Then the 5th thing, some medications, particularly psychotropic drugs, things like antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, antipsychotics and stimulants that should not be used chronically, should be used only acutely to take the edge off. Used long term, they can cause atrophy, shrinkage of the brain, and they've been scientifically shown to cause memory issues in amongst a myriad of other issues that can affect the systems and organs of the body. So always weigh the risks and benefits of these medications with a medical professional. I do have some incredible podcasts coming up with incredible people that know a lot, that have done or doing direct research in understanding the impact of psychotropic drugs. And one of those is Joanna Moncrief, and she works with people like Mark Horowitz. There's Sam Tamimi. There's a lot of people you'll see. If you just go and Google Joanna Moncrief, she's going to be interviewed soon on my podcast. And if you just Google her, you'll see the kind of people that she works with. There's a whole host. Mad in America is another great website to find out more about the impact of psychotropic drugs on our brain and on our memory. Okay, and that's not the only kind of drug that can affect your memory. There's different medications that we need maybe for heart issues, autoimmune, etc., that can also affect your memory. So whatever medication you're on, don't just go and stop it. Go ask your doctor what the side effects are. And if memory is a potential side effect, then be proactive and make sure that you get into a program of brain building. And I teach you how to do brain building, which we should do anyway every day, in this book and also in this book, okay, in two different ways. Here's for pure brain. This is for insurance kind of resilience brain building, and this is for learning how to learn brain building. I'm learning hard stuff, trying to memorize and understand large chunks of work and so on. But those are very important that you do that as a lifestyle, the brain building. So you're proactive. So if you are on a medication that does have a potential side effect of memory, you are balancing right up front. And that's a great way of managing the process. Okay, so it's important to remember that the brain can heal, change, and grow new brain cells. Remember that, okay? So yes, certain drugs will damage brain cells, but you can, through stimulation of your mind, you can stimulate your brain and you can grow new brain cells. Memory is not fixed, okay? The more we learn to use our brain in a healthy way by thinking, by doing these things that I have been telling you, brain building, the detoxing, all the stuff that I teach, the neurocycle, these are all, as you do them, you are growing new brain cells. You are improving the neural wiring. You're improving the cells in your body. You're taking control of things like telomeres, which determine biological age and that kind of stuff. That's what my stuff is going to do for you. It's going to help you to manage those things in all the different aspects. So memory is not fixed and determined. The more we learn to use our brain in a healthy way, by thinking in this way, building memory, detoxing the brain, and then also focus on building good habits of eating. There's so many different ways that you can eat. Work out what works for you best. I'm never going to tell you to just eat one way. Work out what works for you, and that's the best for you. We do need to move, get into an exercise plan. I mean, these are all such logical stuff that we know. But your mind drives all of that. You have to work on your mind alongside those others. Just working on your diet and exercise without your mind is not going to help you. So I hope this has given you some more hope for your memory, because you can always improve your memory. And that's the message that I want to leave you with. Thank you for joining me today. See you next time.